Has Teo finally admitted what went wrong against Shakur Stevenson, where he fought an awkward, powerful, technical boxer of an elite level? Because now he is skipping the easy comeback fight and facing Rolly Romero. But at 147, Teo still has major questions to answer. So there has been some interesting conversations with regards to Teo versus Rolly. So let's give some further perspective to try and aid some understanding. So let's start with the Shakur confession. So Teo openly admits the Stevenson loss was self-inflicted. Now here's a question. What's the best thing you can do after a loss? I would argue that the best thing you can do after a loss is to take accountability and to learn from your mistakes. And when you say a loss is self-inflicted, I'm wondering if you're taking accountability and if you're learning from your mistakes. Now, let's give an example of where someone learns from their mistakes. So when Evander Holyfield fought Riddick Bowe, it was one of the greatest fights, brutal fight. But in the rematch, Holyfield changed his trainer, he changed his team, and he adopted a different type of fight. He used more lateral movement, more jabs, was more intentional, and it was a different type of fight. But the important point here was that he made adjustments. He learnt from his loss. And I feel that part of learning is taking accountability. And my question would be, if you don't take accountability, do you repeat the mistake? And to me, it's like, if a loss is self-inflicted, why is it self-inflicted? Why did you not make the necessary adjustments? Surely Shakur Stevenson was a big part of you not making the necessary adjustments. Now, there may have been some self-inflicting elements, like people get injuries, people have bad camps, issues with their trainer, issues with their team, etc. But to not give true accountability, to me, can be a red flag. And then the next part of the discussion was the no comeback tune-up fight. And here, Teo is rejecting the easy rebound fight template and going straight into a dangerous fight against a very powerful puncher. Now let's make something clear. Rolly Romero is a different boxer to Shakur, because Shakur presented a different type of challenge. He presented a defensive danger, a southpaw angle, and I would argue elite counterpunching. Rolly presents a different challenge. I would say he's a good boxer, maybe not an elite boxer, maybe that's unfair, but I would say that the boxing levels with regards to Shakur and Rolly Romero are different, or at least their boxing identities are different. But from what I've heard, Rolly really punches hard, and he does have the ability to adapt, and he does have boxing intelligence. So he does provide a significant challenge, but it's a significantly different challenge to the one that was presented by Shakur. And then we have as the conversation evolved, the 147 takeover claim. And Teo wants to become undisputed welterweight, 3 times Ring Magazine champion across 3 weight divisions. And he name checks Crawford as the benchmark. Now, it's a funny thing with Teo, because there's 2 different types of Teo. There's the amazing Teo who shows great boxing intelligence, great counterpunching and elite boxing skills. And then there's the Teo that looks really, really average. Against Shakur, he looked average. I guess the question is, why did he look average? And that's the amendment that they need to make. He needs to refine that boxing intelligence. He has a high boxing IQ, but for some reason he was unable to make the changes. He was unable to adapt in the Shakur fight, and they need to understand why and to be able to make that amendment. And he probably needs to regain his confidence, and that is a big thing. I guess confidence, every fighter has different levels of confidence. So some fighters, when they lose, they still inherit that confidence. With Teo, I'm assuming he will still have that confidence, but when you have a loss can have a negative psychological impact on an opponent. So he needs to either rebuild or maintain his confidence levels, and he needs to potentially rebuild his team, because for this fight, he will need an optimal boxing environment. And then we have this context, this interesting context, because in fighting Rolly Romero, from my understanding, Teo is actually fighting a friend. So Rolly is a friend. He's not an enemy. He's not an associate. So you could have friends, associates, enemies, etc. And the question is, what happens when you fight a friend? I think various things can happen. I think it's hard to be scared of a friend, because generally speaking, if you have a friend, you've been around them, so you don't have that mystique, that fear. I think the promotion of the fight may be difficult because it's hard to just project an animosity that clearly isn't there. The business in the ring, however, should be instinctive. Business is business. And I'm assuming that these fighters will take care of business. They will put on their professional hats. And I guess with the context of friendship, fighting a friend can either destroy the relationship or it could build the relationship up even further. It's an interesting variable to this fight. And then the next part of the conversation is that Rolly is underrated. And Teo credits Rolly's awkward, explosive style and the Ryan Garcia upset. That's a really good reference point, because he really did take away Ryan Garcia's left hook. And is Rolly underrated? I think there's different ways to look at it. I think from the boxing purist perspective, I'm not sure if he's underrated, but he may be underrated to the casual fan. I would say that he had an intelligent performance against Ryan Garcia. It was a masterclass in a sense in taking away the left hook. It wasn't an exciting fight. It was a technical fight. And I don't want to take the focus away from Rolly's performance, and I don't want to minimize it, but Ryan Garcia didn't seem himself in that fight. Now, maybe that was just the technical excellence of Rolly Romero, or maybe there were some other factors in that fight. But regardless, Rolly did what he had to do, and he showed in that fight that he belongs at a high level and he has high credentials. And then the next part, and the final part of the discussion, is the power question at 147. Does the power of Teo, does it return to welterweight? And when he's spoken about this, he's kind of deflected, which might indicate that he may have doubts. The important part with regards to his power is that when he goes in the ring with Rolly Romero, he gets his respect. And if Rolly doesn't respect his power, then he punishes him accordingly. If you look at it like this, typically when a boxer doesn't respect someone's power, they will more likely punch through the target as opposed to at the target, which gives you greater counter-punching opportunities. So if Rolly is dismissive of Teo's power, it might actually go to his advantage if Teo is able to capitalize on the counter-punching windows. And let's not forget that Teo is a very good counter-puncher. So here is my final statement. Think of this. Teo, hopefully, has finally accepted what went wrong against Shakur. But admission is only the beginning. Now he faces Rolly, an awkward, powerful, and perhaps an underrated opponent. This fight may reveal whether Teo has truly rebuilt his confidence, sharpened his boxing intelligence, and carried his power to 147. Now, accountability, it sounds good, but improvement must now be proven inside the ring when the pressure finally arrives. So that's the end of the video. Now I'm trying to build a digital boxing community, and that means I'm interested in your thoughts, I'm interested in your perspectives, and I'm interested in your observations. Now, if you want to support the channel, press like, hype, and subscribe. And if you want to watch more content like this, then simply click here or click here. as always, thanks for your time. It is much appreciated.